right now on 5 on your side at 10.
The Arctic Express is headed our way again. The pattern change coming next week, putting the brakes on these bitter blasts.
He spent 28 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. Now Lamar Johnson is suing the city of St. Louis over his wrongful conviction. Our top story, a St. Louis teen feared dead after a devastating house fire. Tonight, a mother leans on her faith.
I'm cool that this was his plan. I'm just concerned I don't like this avenue. Why so devastating?
Good evening, I'm Mike Bush. Kelly Jackson has the night off. Tonight, 18-year-old Chandler Hill is still missing 2 days after a fire destroyed his family's home in North St. Louis. Tomorrow, firefighters will return to the apartment building to search the frozen rubble. New tonight, our Robert Townsend talked with the young man's devastated mother.
He was such a joyful little person, always smiling.
Michelle Hill affectionately called her 18-year-old son, Chandler Hill, the Chan Man.
The Chan Man is a special individual. He's on the autism spectrum. So he's full of my life surroundings.
Everywhere she went, her Chan Man went too.
My parties, I have a book club. Yeah, everybody knows the Chan Man.
Monday morning, Chandler was at home with his grandmother on Athlone Avenue in North St. Louis.
I was heading back home for the day.
A neighbor suddenly called Michelle and told her their two-story brick home was engulfed with flames and thick smoke. Firefighters rescued Hill's 78-year-old mother.
And so they literally had to drag her out because she was going through, and they said there was no way she would be able to get through that fire.
But firefighters couldn't find Chandler.
And the whole thing, I'm thinking, where is the Chan Man?
Hill says after the raging fire started, her mom sent Chandler to their living room. He hasn't been seen since.
There was no way he could get out.
Fire investigators say the now destroyed home is still completely frozen, making it nearly impossible to search for her missing son.
They did send the dogs in, but like they said, it's too frozen. They couldn't get a scent anyway.
On Thursday, crews will be back out here searching for Chandler's body. Meantime, Michelle Hill admits she's still struggling with losing her son in such a tragic way.
I don't like this avenue. Why so devastating for such an innocent individual and soul?
Now her co-workers are rallying behind her.
She lost absolutely everything, including her beautiful boy, Chandler.
This is step by step for me.
Robert Townsend, 5 on your side.
And Hill's co-workers at the University of Missouri St. Louis Institute of Mental Health set up a GoFundMe page to assist her. You can find a link at KSDK.com. Just hours ago, we learned the body of a missing woman in Washington County has been found. The Mineral Area Major Case Squad says it searched a Potosi farm on Shirley School Road today and found the remains of 44-year-old Donna I. This is not far from where she was last seen in the early morning hours of January 9th. An autopsy will be performed on Friday. Well, we enjoyed a bit of a winter warm-up today. Temperatures hit 40 degrees. However, the bitter cold and snow is returning tomorrow. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell has new information on the timing in his Weather First forecast.
You know, and I don't think we have a lot to worry about tomorrow morning, even though we're below freezing again, and whatever melted on the roads earlier today has tended to freeze again if it's not treated. So watch out, there are a few slick spots, but the snow that we expect overnight and early tomorrow morning, just a few flurries, and mainly north of St. Louis. Now tomorrow night into very early Friday, there may be some light accumulation, but how about that beautiful sky? John shared this picture on our 5 on Your Side Weather Watchers Facebook page. Sunset tonight from in the Metro East. 116 consecutive hours at or below 32 degrees in St. Louis. We finally climbed above freezing today just before lunchtime. Of course, that didn't last for long, but we'll take any hour we can get above freezing that we can get at this point. We managed to get into the lower 40s. Clouds are thickening. There are snow flurries across northern Missouri. Not sure we're going to get a whole lot out of that initial wave here, but it's a nice brief break from that bitter cold. And tomorrow, temperatures are still well into the 30s, but then tomorrow night, the Arctic air is coming back. Some light snow tomorrow night, especially north of St. Louis. We'll talk amounts and then talk wind chills as we head into the weekend. Arctic air is back Friday, Mike.
And remember, you can get the Weather First forecast anytime. Just text the word weather to 314-425-5355 and we'll send it to your phone. Developing tonight, cleanup crews are back at the St. Louis County Justice Center after another pipe burst. This time, water reached the transformer, causing the emergency lights to go on. The building still has heat, but limited lighting and no Wi-Fi. Generators have been brought in as plumbers and electricians make repairs. Just like Sunday's pipe bursts, we're told operations are not affected and inmates do not need to be relocated. The frigid weather has kept Missouri American water crews busy this week. They've responded to dozens of water main breaks. The utility says fluctuating temperatures and melting snow could lead to more breaks. Tonight, the man who spent nearly 3 decades behind bars for a crime he didn't commit is now suing the city of St. Louis and its police department. Lamar Johnson is seeking unspecified damages nearly a year since his exoneration. Brent Solomon joins us now with a closer look at the lawsuit. Brent?
Well, Mike, this is about accountability. That from Johnson's attorneys who filed suit today, saying it was St. Louis police who, quote, detained, arrested, and framed him for a murder he did not commit.
You've had nearly 3 decades of your life stolen by the system. You should be compensated.
M.L. Smith with the Missouri Justice Coalition has followed Lamar Johnson's case for years.
And I spoke to him occasionally while he was incarcerated to keep his hopes up. And we always talked about how he would be coming home and that, this situation wasn't forever.
Johnson convicted in a 1994 murder that he says he had nothing to do with. Later, a witness said he was bullied and pressured by police to name Johnson as one of the shooters. Last February, Johnson was exonerated and released from prison.
When you, of course, work for many years, you maybe build up a savings, retirement, etc. Well, when you come home after almost 30 years, you haven't had a job. What does your resume look like, right? Having to rebuild his life after nearly 3 decades.
In a statement, Johnson said, quote, "I am grateful to be free, and I'm doing my best to make up for the time that was stolen from me and my family, especially my daughters. I want to put this dark and painful chapter behind me, but there can be no healing without answers and accountability."
Those who are in positions of authority, including the police and the prosecutor, need to make sure that they have the right person, not get tunnel vision and just want a conviction no matter who it is, which often happens.
Johnson says he intends to make sure what happened to him doesn't happen to anyone else. The city is not commenting on the lawsuit.
About an hour ago, a community forum wrapped up in Clayton to discuss the school district's controversial land purchase. The district is buying the headquarters for Caleres, formerly known as the Brown Shoe Company. Many want the land to be redeveloped.
Everyone in this room lives in Clayton for the school district. The city is what it is because of our schools.
If Brown Shoe Company cannot sell this for their asking price, maybe they need to lower the asking price.
4 former Clayton mayors say the deal would cost the city more than $1 million in property taxes per year. Tonight, students at Lincoln University in Jefferson City say they're frustrated after meeting with school leaders today. They met with leaders at the historical Black university demanding accountability after a popular administrator died by suicide. Students are calling for the removal of university president Dr. John B. Mosley over allegations he harassed and bullied Bonnie Candia Bailey before her death.
More than likely, ourselves as a student, as one, will still be protesting. We'll still be fighting for justice for Dr. Bonnie to save our university and get it back to where it should be.
Mosley was placed on paid administrative leave on Friday. The Board of Curators said it would hire a third-party expert to investigate the allegations. New tonight, the private company wanting to fly drone surveillance over St. Louis neighborhoods is moving forward with its plan. 5 on your side, Flora Barczewski explains the company is now looking for drone pilots to get the job done.
Mike, that company, SMS Novel Films, called the surveillance program launch a work retreat and is asking for drone pilots to come to St. Louis in February to start capturing footage of our streets. And residents tonight are still very concerned.
Residents say this all started when they found out SMS Novel Films was going to be surveilling the Gravois Park neighborhood later this month with intentions of combating crime, but the story keeps changing.
I feel like the thing that stayed consistent with the story is that this person has not engaged us one time. When approached and asked about his plans, he has rebuffed people. He has doubled down on what he wants to do despite getting pushback.
Now the company says it's not going to tell anyone where their drone pilots are filming, calling on licensed pilots to come to St. Louis for a 5-day work retreat to kick off the surveillance program, SMS Livestream. Resident Sarah Phillips says this is an invasion of privacy.
I'm not a victim of domestic violence, for example, but I can imagine that if I were, I would be really, really worried that somebody can just decide to do this and there's no regulation, there's no oversight over that person who then wants to go and make that data available, apparently to anybody who can pay for it.
Alderwoman Alicia Saunier says a major concern for her is who will have access to the data and video SMS plans to capture.
Even thinking about, you're a person who lives alone, someone's ability to record you coming and going to your house and having data and no idea where that's going. Our children possibly being recorded at their schools, just different things right now that we want to make sure that we have some clear regulations and protections in place.
Saunier says the board is moving forward with Bill 199 to tighten up St. Louis drone laws.
I'm trying to propose some standards and ordinances, again, not to even necessarily prohibit you, but to make sure there's some regulation and that people in their community can feel comfortable with what's happening.
The board bill is currently in front of the Public Safety Committee, and public hearings on the measure are not scheduled yet. But Saunier says they're right around the corner. SMS Novel Films CEO Jomo Johnson declined our interview request again today, saying they will not be doing any interviews until they launch that program.
Tonight, an online giant is in prime position to rescue the TV home of the Cardinals and Blues games.
There are multiple scenarios out there that could play out.
The curveball baseball fans may face in watching games in the future. Saving for your golden years. Tonight, the big changes in Social Security and Medicare that can help you sock away more for retirement.
It was golden sunshine today that warmed us nicely this afternoon. After the brief break, Arctic air returns tomorrow night, when the lowest wind chills likely cause the greatest concerns.
Amazon is coming to the rescue of the bankrupt broadcaster which holds the TV rights to the Cardinals and Blues games. Amazon will make a minority investment into the owner of Bally Sports Midwest and provide streaming access on its Prime Video platform. The deal still needs to be approved. Bally's owns the streaming rights for the Blues, not the Cardinals. Team president Bill DeWitt III tells our partners at the St. Louis Business Journal that a lot needs to be played out before Cardinals games end up on Prime. Just hours ago, members of Congress gathered on the steps of the U.S. Capitol for a bipartisan candlelight vigil to mark 100 days since Hamas attack on Israel. More than 1,200 people were killed during the vicious attacks on October 7th. House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke about America's support of Israel.
We're here because Hamas is still terrorizing the Jewish people and threatening the state of Israel. It was a bipartisan group who stood here 70 days ago, and it's still a bipartisan group because Congress is united in its opposition to Jewish hatred and in support for our friend and ally Israel.
Nearly 100 hostages are still being held by Hamas. Some of their families met with lawmakers today. Earlier today, President Biden hosted top congressional leaders at the White House to discuss funding for Ukraine. Republicans remain adamant that money will be spent on immigration and border security ahead of aid for foreign allies. Both sides called the meeting productive. Congress is still trying to pass a spending bill by Friday to avoid a partial government shutdown. The government is cracking down on overdraft fees. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is proposing a new rule requiring banks to be more upfront about those fees. It may also limit charges to as little as $3. The agency says it could save bank customers an estimated $3.5 billion a year. Another down day on Wall Street as pessimism grows among investors over interest rate cuts. A top Federal Reserve official says there's no rush to cut interest rates this year, even as inflation continues to come down. Managing finances can be especially challenging for retirees or people who plan to retire soon. On tonight's Making Ends Meet, Michelle Lee breaks down the changes to Social Security payments and Medicare this year and shares how you can adjust your outlook.
U.S. inflation continued to decline in 2023, and the financial picture for Americans, including retirees, is improving. For that reason, monthly Social Security payments will only rise by 3.2% this year, based on the cost of living adjustment. AARP Senior Vice President Bill Sweeney says the boost is a bit disappointing in contrast to 2022's 8.7 increase, a 40-year high.
This is probably not enough for them to be able to feel comfortable and confident about their savings.
Another concern, standard premiums for Medicare Part B are back on the rise. The portion of Medicare that covers doctor visits and other outpatient treatment is up 6%. On the bright side, people who haven't retired yet can now sock away even more money. People 50 and over can contribute up to $30,500 to a 401k or another type of deferred compensation plan this year.
That's a little bit extra money that you can put away in your retirement, which is a great way to save and get caught up before you retire.
Finally, 4 decades after Congress voted to slowly raise the full retirement age from 65 to 67, the goal close to being achieved, reaching 66 and 8 months in the final half of 2024. While you can begin collecting Social Security before age 67, your payments will be permanently reduced. On the other hand, waiting until 70 earns you a bonus.
We really urge people to think about when is the right age to start claiming Social Security to maximize how much money you can get.
For Making Ends Meet, Michelle Lee, 5 on your side.
Well, the St. Louis Zoo has named its 3-week-old baby Sumatran orangutan. His name is Forrest. Right now, he's still staying close to mom. While they're officially not on public display, zoo officials say you might get a glimpse of the pair in the orangutan day room at Jungle of the Apes. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell joined us now with that weather first forecast, and more cold and snow is in the forecast.
Yes, but limited in some respects compared to what we just went through. We don't think we're getting a big snowstorm in St. Louis. In fact, we can confidently say that won't happen, but we are going to get a little taste of snow and, yes, some more cold. Now, we've cooled back below freezing again across the area. Temperatures from St. Louis off to the west are in the upper 20s, but as you work your way east of St. Louis, Edwardsville, over to Greenville, over to Flora, already down into the lower 20s right now. Look at Farmington and Centerville at 21. So if anything melted, if it hasn't been treated, it freezes again this evening, so watch for those patches of black ice. Meanwhile, east and southeast of St. Louis, that's where the winds are a little bit stronger and wind chills are colder. Of course, this has caused problems with the weather across the country. Lots of flight delays and cancellations the last few days, so the airlines are still trying to make that up. Hopefully, you haven't been impacted, but check with your airline on your flight schedule. 29 degrees at Lambert right now. South wind keeps us from getting too cold tonight. How about that rebound from 10 degrees this morning to 43 this afternoon? The air's still very dry. We're holding in the 20s tonight. We could see a few flurries slip in here later on tonight. We have a boundary just north of St. Louis, and that is where the cold air is north of that. And we're already seeing some snow breaking out across parts of Iowa, far northern Missouri. But a lot of what we see on the radar screen isn't reaching the ground. The air is quite dry right now. So if you're traveling up into Iowa or heading to northern Illinois, there might be a little coating there. But really, it's going to be the wind chills that we talk about, and not so much so for tomorrow. They're still in the double digits, but then as we head into Friday morning, gusty winds Friday morning, Saturday morning, much colder temperatures pushing in. We'll be looking at that 10 to 20 degree below range again, so maybe some more wind chill advisories. That will start to ease as we head towards Sunday morning. Here's your futurecast tomorrow evening. We're through the day tomorrow without any impacts from any kind of snowflakes, but heading into tomorrow evening, especially late, we will have some patches of snow sliding through, more prevalent north of Interstate 70, where the better chance of seeing upwards of an inch will be. It's out of here, it looks like, fairly early on Friday morning. And as far as accumulations go, not a lot. Generally a dusting to about an inch, maybe slightly more as you go farther to the north of St. Louis. But even so, with the cold, gusty winds sliding in here for Friday into Saturday, and the fact that Friday morning, some of us may have a fresh little dusting of snow on these already pretty cold roads around St. Louis, with temperatures around 10 Friday morning. We have weather first weather alert days for Friday and Saturday to deal with the bitter cold. It doesn't last very long, though.
Well, that's good news. All right, Scott, thanks. Holden is up next with sports.
After spending the last 2 weeks at home, the Blues have shuffled their roster before heading off to the nation's capital. Find out what they're doing to try and ignite the offense next in sports.
This 5 on Your Side Sports Report is sponsored by Telly Tire and Auto Centers, driving your way since 1942.
After losing 3 of their last 4, the Blues shook up their roster today, putting Kasperi Kapanen on IR and calling up forward Adam Gaudette from Springfield to take his place before the team shoved off to D.C. to take on the Capitals. The Blues have 7 games left before the All-Star break, 4 on the road and 3 back here in St. Louis. The team wants to make a big push before that time off to boost their chances to make the playoffs. One particular area of their game is seen as the ignition to that push.
If you watch today, our focus is our forecheck. Like we have to become a better forechecking team. So that's kind of our focus right now in our team game is becoming a better forechecking team that hopefully will create more offense for us and you know, playing more time in the offensive zone lessens the times you have to defend.
It's winter transfer season in the world of soccer, and while we're still waiting to see if City SC is going to make any big-ticket additions, it appears they're on the verge of losing one of their top goal scorers from last season. No official word from City yet, but forward Nico Giacchini will now do his goal scoring for Como FC, a second-level club in the Italian league. It was first reported on Sunday that Giacchini and Como had reached a contract agreement and that all that was left was for Como to come to a financial agreement on the transfer with City SC. Giacchini has spent 4 years living in Italy growing up. He had 10 goals for the City Reds, tied for tops on the team. Earlier today, Robert Kraft officially welcomed Jared Mayo as the new coach of the New England Patriots. Now, he is a lifetime Patriot, drafted in the first round back in 2008 and moving to the coaching staff after his playing career. Despite Bill Belichick being the only coach he's known as a professional, he tried to make one thing clear.
I'm not trying to be Bill. I think that Bill is his own man. If you can't tell by now, I'm a little bit different even up here. The more I think about like the lessons that I've taken from Bill, hard work works, right? Hard work works, and that's what we're all about.
Off the road in Champaign, Brad Underwood and the Illini are regrouping after being upset at home by Maryland on Sunday, which Underwood really chalked up to just a bad game that teams have, while admitting it wasn't the same Fighting Illini squad that we've been used to seeing this season. They'll need to shake off the cobwebs quickly before taking on a Michigan squad tomorrow night in Ann Arbor that still features plenty of talent despite losing All-American Hunter Dickinson to Kansas in the transfer portal.
They're not as reliant on their front court as they were with Hunter, you know, where they went to Hunter quite a bit. They pick and choose their spots, and they're more balanced across the front line than they have been in the past.
All right, take a look at this. Last night in Terre Haute, Indiana, this fan had this putt for $10,000, the length of the court, and that's no gimme, but he's right on point. Great shot. That's a story to tell for the rest of his life. I mean, look how close it was. He had 100 on one side, 100 on the other.
Yeah, and what a difference. Right down the middle is $10,000 or a $100 gift card.
Now, my question there is, you know, does that just go directly back to the school to pay for tuition, or do they have a good time that night? So.
Maybe a little both.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, Holden, thanks. Crying for the Lions. Tonight, an emotional fan shares the real source of his viral tears of joy. Well, Kansas City Chiefs fans can't stop talking about head coach Andy Reid's frozen mustache. Now, a KC area bakery is turning the memorable look from Saturday's game into a piece of cake. Let's just say the frozen stash cake is selling like hot cakes. The city of Detroit is still celebrating the Lions' first playoff win in 32 years. One fan's emotional reaction was seen by millions just moments after the Lions beat the Rams on Sunday. Aaron Vicarious says his tears were tears of joy.
I can't believe this guy's crying over a football game. And that's true. It's funny to cry over a football game, but it was more than that.
Aaron says he was thinking of his late father, a die-hard Lions fan who took him to games at Ford Field, but never a playoff game. Aaron and his brother are hoping to score tickets to Sunday's divisional game against Tampa Bay. It's a game you can watch right here on 5 on Your Side. Kickoff is at 2, and a lot of St. Louisans play for the Lions.
You know, there's probably a lot of tears of joy shed here in St. Louis for that game. We have Matt Laporta from over in Highland. We have Jamison Williams, you know, the standout wide receiver for Detroit from right here in St. Louis. A lot of local ties. why not be Lions fans right now?
Exactly. They're fun to watch as well. All right, Scott has a final check of the weather, and again, we're talking snow and cold, but hopefully for not nearly as long as we dealt with last
and
week.
it's not a huge problem, but we've seen a little dusting of snow to maybe an inch causes bigger problems. Tomorrow morning, maybe a few flurries out the door, but that's the Arctic front sliding into St. Louis into tomorrow afternoon. If you're traveling to Memphis or down to Nashville, they're going to have some slick problems down there too. So keep that in mind. Look at that batch of snow coming in across Iowa and northern Missouri. That's headed our way, and we'll see that tomorrow night, a dusting to an inch by Friday morning, but it's the cold and the wind and dangerous wind chills, if not Friday morning, definitely late Friday night into Saturday morning. Friday and Saturday, weather first, weather alert days.
All right, Scott, thanks. There you have it, 5 on your side at 10. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon is next. Don't forget to start your day with Today in St. Louis. That begins at 4 a.m. And have a great tomorrow.